Hello everyone. So I'd like to share something that I've learned with Ruby on Rails, particularly the active record query interface. Basically, I think that we are able to make better queries using some very nice features that Rails comes along with. So before that, let me walk you through the setup that I have here. All that I have is a user and a posts model. All that I have is that I have a user who can create posts, delete posts, basically the usual crowd operations. Okay, and I'm using the Rails 8 user authentication generator. And all that I've added is this line over here to see that a user can have multiple posts. And in the post model, a post belongs to an author, which is essentially a user. Okay, so that is really all I have in terms of the model, the user and then the post, that is the author and then the post. So now what I want to show is that in the index view you can see that I'm essentially getting the posts. I'm also showing who I'm currently logged in as, the number of posts, and then I'm listing out each post in the database as I get it from the controller. So I can see that I have this number of posts. I'm logged in as this user. This is the current number of posts that I have here. And for each post, I can see the author, the title, and then the body, and I also have a link to show the post. So before I actually go ahead and then do anything else, I have started the real server here. So what I'll do in the browser is to perform a full reload so I can show you what I'm trying to say, right? So I'll do a full reload here, and then we'll watch the server spit out everything for us. Okay, so the server has spit out everything and it's basically going to be the same thing, but I just wanted you to see how the server was responding to this, right? So I'm going all the way back to the beginning, and you can see that for each thing that we did or the server brought us back, we had to get or make a query. And making a query for almost everything is quite not a good thing, right? So what I'll do is I'll skip over these ones here. These are for the schema migrations and the other things which we are not really concerned about. And this session load over here is for us to know who is the current user. That is what the Rails 8 authentication generator uses to let us know who the current user is based on their authentication status. Now this part here, the first user load here, is for me to get the user who is currently logged in, right? The part where our conversation is going to start is from this place here, the post count. Okay, so this post count here tells us the number of posts we have, which is what you can see here. This is the number of posts, and then the post load is the one that gives us everything, right? So the post load, if I should show you in the controller, is what I have here as this, right? So here's where I get all the posts. So in the index action, all I'm doing is I'm getting all the posts and then showing it. Okay, so here I just get the size of the post, and you can see that for even for that I'm making a query to get the number of posts. So you know that you would have to count all the number of posts to get me the actual number of posts that I have. Now going to the post, you can see that I load all the posts. I select the post from the post table over here, right? And then I go ahead and then do a load for each user. So I do a load for a user, which is I'm going to the users table and I'm selecting the user with an ID of 1, which apparently is Joe, because that's the current user that we are looking at the post for. So Rails also has a very neat way to not have to do consistent queries, though we can see that it's still doing some sort of queries here, but it's actually using a cached version of the response it got from the previous one. Because if you look carefully, you see that we are still getting the ID of the user with the ID 1. So Rails does a very nice job here, and then it's able to show us that we are currently getting the same user, right? And also, if you are looking carefully, you see that I'm also getting a user with ID 2, but then I'm also getting a cached version of that user. And that is because up here somewhere, I loaded a user which had an ID of 2. and this user happens to be Sally because that's the current user that I'm logged in as. So after the initial loading of that user, Rails kept that data so that they didn't have to load another time. But the thing here is that for any time that it had to get another user, we had to make another query, right? We make a query for the first time that we receive the user, and then for the consequent times, Rails has a nice way of just not making another request to get it. But you can see that it's still sort of making a request in some sort, right? And that's what we are trying to not have happen. And this thing that we have here is going to be called, or is what we is called as the eager loading. So we are going to eager load the user so that by the time we are going to need the users, it is already available for us to use, and we don't have to make another query to get those users. And Rails has a very neat way of doing that. So if we go to the controller action, we can simply come to this side and then say that I want to include the author, right? Because remember that a post belongs to an author. So now what I've done here is that I'm saying that a post belongs to an author, and so what I want to do is include all the authors that the post belongs to. And now let's go ahead and then do another refresh, and you can see like how many queries we did to just make this happen. And if you look here, you can see the amount of time it took. That is 2302 milliseconds. That's quite a lot of time to do something like that for 223 posts. So now that I've done this here, where I do to include, basically to eager load the data, now I go back to the browser and then make another force reload with Control Shift R, right? And now you can see something a bit different, right? If I go all the way to the top, you can see that the number of requests we make has shrunk a bit down. This time around, our usual loading of session is available because we have to know which user is loaded. It is currently available, and here also I'm getting the user who I'm currently logged in as, and then here I'm getting the current count of the user, sorry, the number of posts. Then I go ahead and then get the post as well. These are all things from the before, but now this time around, when I have here, I have a single query which is going to get all the users that have posts, right? This is going to select all the users that have a post, and this is a single query that we did, that we did, and this occurred only in 0.4 milliseconds. That's way faster than what we had in the beginning, right? So at this point, the only thing that we do is allow the view to render all of the posts that we have without having to make extra queries to the database. This is very nice, and you can see the amount of time that it took to give us all of this. That is way less than what we got earlier. Okay, so this over here is our first attempt to making this much better. We make a single query that gets us everything that we would need to utilize to make this thing much better, right? We are not done yet. You realize that to get the number of posts, I still may have to make another request to the database to retrieve all the, or to get the number of posts available, right? And if the database or the post becomes bigger and bigger, or more and more, I'll have to make a request to go and count all of them before I'm able to get the actual total, which is not also very fine. So what Rails also does for us is that it gives us a nice thing, which is the load, like the load method. What this load method does is that it caches the response that we get from the request that we get, or the query that we make. So from there, any other requests we make to any other parts of our model, like, or for instance the collection that we receive, for example, to get a count, to do anything else that would have triggered the the database to receive another query, it wouldn't do that. So now I can say that I want to load everything, right? So what this will do is it will cache all the details, because once we get this post, we don't really expect that there will be a lot of changes, at least at the point in time when we are showing them to the user. Okay, so at this point now, what I can do is I can come back to the real server, and then I'll make another query. And what I want you to take note of is that here we have a query to count all the posts, but now when we make another force reload, I can come all the way to the top here, and you can see that at this point I don't see any post counts going on, right? If you take a good look, you can see that now I don't see any posts count or any query to go to the post to count it, right? That is because the load method gives us a way to be able to not have to do this query another time, right? It loads all the posts, and then it gives it to us in a way that we can just utilize it, and we don't have to make extra queries to the database or anything like that. Everything that we need is right here, right? We can poke the user model, gets other parts of it without having to make extra queries to the database, sorry, to the yes, to the database. Okay, so these are just some few things that I thought I could share with you. I know I've talked a lot, but it was so that we could understand what I'm trying to show over here, right? You could also do the same thing in the console, right? I can come to posts, I can say post.all, so that I can get all the posts. And here when I go to get the first post, right, so let's say I can say first posts. When I say that's going to equal to the post.first, you can see that I have to make another query to get to the post, right? And also in the same way, when I do first posts dot author, because remember that a post belongs to an author, and I want to get their email address, here I have to make a query to the user model or to the user stable to get this data. But then if I do the same thing where I do post.includes, and then I get the author, and then I also say that I want to load this up, right? This is going to give me everything, right? Everything. See that it loads the posts, and it also loads the users and everything. So this time around, if I say the first posts is equal to posts.first, you realize that it doesn't make an extra query to the database, unlike what we had here. It didn't make another query, and that is quite fast, right? It's good because we don't have to make another query. So eager loading might be the best thing that you can do if you realize that you are making multiple queries to the database for data that you are using almost all the time, right? So try out the includes method and see how that works much for you. And also using the load method, you can simply just go ahead and then load up the data and cache it for the entirety of whatever you want to do with it. If for any reason you would have to reload it, you can just go to here and then say that you want to reload. Maybe you made a change to the data and then you want to reload it. You can just do a post.reload and it will go ahead and make the same query, cache the response, and then you can just go ahead and use it as much as you want. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you learned something. Let me know how you are currently handling this solution or this problem in your Rails application, and I'm happy to learn as well. Thank you.